And welcome back to the Power of Progression podcast. I'm your host, John Marone. I am beyond excited to be giving you guys the pleasure of meeting my friend, Jasmine Perks. She has been absolutely blowing it up on social media. But let me tell you a little bit about who she is first. So she is a girl that went from 220 pounds, binge eating, bullied in school, self-bullied, really avoided any mirror at all costs, and lost in her own skin, to a powerful and successful woman who has found out what she truly wants, focusing her energy on healing and growing her identity. And through that self-reflection, she has created a powerful and positive mindset, which allows her to now help thousands and thousands do the same. Jasmine has been in behavior psych as well as behavior modification for 12 years. But guess what? She left that 12-year career to start a business that brings fitness and mindset together. And that company is called The Apex Life, where she helps people identify their limited beliefs, where they're self-sabotaging themselves, and has them get extreme self-awareness and feel empowered by their abilities of changing their own lives instead of feeling like the victim to their circumstances. Her goal is to help people realize that they cannot heal what is not discovered. And more importantly, they cannot fix emotional issues with another diet. She has helped recreate her own identity through the power of personal development, and that is why she is absolutely 100 dedicated to help you do the same. But it's not just through fitness. It's also through the holistic approach that focuses on 4 main pillars of wellness, therefore creating a healthy interior to match your healthy exterior. Without further ado, my friend and special guest today, Jasmine Perks. What's going on, girl?
Oh my gosh, I'm all like flustered over here.
Me too.
So Me good. Too. I'm like, I need to carry you around everywhere I go. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so very much for this opportunity to speak on your platform and to share my story.
Absolutely. I want to tell everybody a little bit of how we connected. And if you want to go ahead and share the story, but it has something to do with a previous guest, Troy Brown. You want to go ahead and kind of tell how stars aligned without even us realizing it?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't a coincidence, that's for sure. I don't know exactly what I was searching for on the internet, but it was something to do with probably change and habits and mindset and something of that nature, because that's pretty much what I'm always searching on the wonderful world of Google. And I came across your website. It was actually, I think it was your main page. And I was looking in the image sections, and that's where your face popped up. And I was like, oh, okay. Your face along with Tony Robbins. I'm like, where is the link here? Who is this person? I need to know. So that need, I clicked on it and brought me to your website. Beautifully well done, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so what I did was I read your story because I was like, I wanted to know who you were and what you were all about. And so I started reading, and Troy, my partner, my business partner, my life partner, my soul partner, he has his podcast, which you were just on not that long ago also. And he was looking for stories. He was looking for people. He was looking to really bring people onto his platform that had some value and a story that would touch people's heart and provide inspiration and really share what it was that got them from where they were, usually in some kind of pain or suffering, to where they are now and really feeling more fulfilled in their life. And so when we read your story, it literally, we got halfway through it and we already knew you were a perfect fit. So that worked very, very well. And yeah, and so he was on your podcast and here I am, and it's a, paying it forward.
The craziest thing is when Troy and I were talking, he's like, dude, you messaged me like as Jasmine and I were talking about you and you had no idea.
Yeah.
I got chills thinking about it because it's things like that are real. When you put energy and focus into things, it becomes reality. You could actually cultivate your own outcomes. And I want to talk to you definitely about that today, but I thank you again for jumping on here and really, really excited to dive a little bit deeper into Jasmine, your story and kind of what you're doing currently. So let's start there. When I introduced you, I talked about the 220 pounds, the binge eating, the bullied. And what I love is how you mentioned something. That's why I put in the intro, being self-bullied. Tell us a little bit about Jasmine growing up, you know, your lifestyle, your home life, and we kind of start there.
Yeah, sure. And you know what? I've really started to notice as I've had opportunities like this to share my story, something that has really come to light with my self-awareness, because I feel like that's always an ongoing process as you experience more, you challenge yourself and things of that nature, is that I didn't really realize how much of my story I've suppressed. And so as I start to share it, new things come to light. Like I totally forgot that I remember, I know about the self-bullying, but I totally forgot I was bullied in school. So as you become self-aware, connect with your emotions, the fear, the pain, the suffering, where it comes from, you really start getting more pieces to your puzzle. So you kind of work, it's kind of like taking that 1,000-piece puzzle and you start working on the border and then you start filling in the pieces until the picture is complete. So that's kind of how I feel about a journey. And that kind of keeps it interesting because I'm always like, get curious about who you are, what makes you tick, why you are the way you are, but from a place of curiosity, not judgment, because I feel like that's when we shut down, where when we get curious, we can expand.
Curiosity increases the mind to expand versus judgment close down. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wait, before you get into it, guys, I always tell you, get your pen and papers ready because it's about to be the bombs of value being dropped. So let's go. Okay. So as you've been telling your story, you're revealing a new version of yourself because you're able to go back and own things. And I would agree with you 1,000%. Every time I tell my story, whether it's on podcasts, whether it's from stage, whether it's in front of clients, I always am like, man, I totally forgot about that. And it's actually kind of fun, right? It's kind of fun. It's like going back to an old book saying, oh, I forgot about that part in the chapter, right? So I love that. I love that. But continue with your journey. Let's go.
Yeah. So in regards to, shall we talk about the physical or the mindset kind of component?
All of it. I really want the whole piece because people that are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, they're either in one spot or the other, but I think that they go together. I think no matter what, it goes together. And you may not be overweight if you're, mentally not where you should be. You may not be overweight, but you are not healthy physical wise, right? So I want to talk about both and how you kind of mesh the two together. But let's talk about the past and your mental and physical state.
For sure. So as a child, super loving, always athletic, massive tomboy. You could catch me in a dress, pigtails, but playing in the dirt with my brother. Me and my brother were very close growing up. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. So my dad was in and out of my life from basically since I was 2 until about the last time I saw him was when I was 11. And so with my upbringing, super athletic, I was a child that was always pulled out of school for competitions, whether that was sports, whether that was dance or gymnastics or things of that nature. I love having competition. That was like my driving force. I was in talent shows and things of that nature. And then when I was about 9, I believe, I was taken to Sick Kids in Toronto because what was happening is I had a hip condition which they didn't know at the time, is called avascular necrosis. I spent most of my childhood also in the hospital. I had chronic asthma. So I was always, dependent on medication, which probably caused this condition. I probably could say I've almost died 10 times because of the chronic asthma that I've had. I was also given a ventilation machine. I was donated by the hospital because I was spending usually weeks on end in the hospital. But luckily I've outgrown that. My last incident was probably when I was about 24 years old when I was home. That was the latest and most traumatic event probably of my life. I was very close to not making it at that time. But luckily, that didn't happen.
Thankfully, yes.
Yes, thankfully, exactly. So just being told with the condition that I had, the doctors didn't know really what was wrong. They just told my mom to pull me out of all sports and for the next 3 to 4 years. I had a child at that age, completely devastated. I didn't understand. So going through puberty, not being active, not being able to engage in sports and things of that nature, really going through that transition of the awkwardness with hormones and things that are happening to your body. What I think was happening was I didn't have the things that I loved as an outlet. So I really turned to food for coping. And at that time, I didn't really realize that I was dealing with abandonment issues from my father. And up until I would probably say 5 or 6 years ago, did I really understand the detrimental impact that had on my life, with my father, filled with empty promises, not having the bond that I desired and I wanted, and always telling myself he will never have that kind of power and influence over me. But little did I know that this little girl inside of me my whole life was in a lot of pain, and I didn't know how to take care of her the way that, other than using food to cope. That was the best way. That was my survival. That was my survival mode. And as I grew up, I really started shifting in my affection and the way that I saw my self-worth. And I started putting all my value in other people. I always had to be perfect. My mom used to call me this little secretary. I would have everything in order. Mom, do you want me to help you with this? Do you want me to help you with that? I would have cleaning contests with my brothers to who could have the most perfect clean room. I would go to my aunt's house at like 9 or 10 years old and be cleaning ovens, because I felt like that if I showed them my value that way, that I wouldn't be left behind. I would be worthy of staying in their life. I would be worthy of love. And then my appearance as I got older followed suit in that, trying to always look good, never wanting to not wear makeup, but hand in hand, trying to always look good, but with the, binge eating manifesting, I always covered up. No tank tops, no shorts, no regular t-shirts, nothing until I was about 27 years old. Black, I would suffer in the heat in summer. I hated shopping, the anxiety, the thought of having to go and shop for pants crushed me, because I knew what that was I would end up leaving in a much worse mental and emotional state than when I arrived. Throughout high school, I was bullied a lot for my appearance, not necessarily because of my weight, but for other reasons. That really crushed me. And I always felt like I was seen in a light that I didn't want to be seen in. But yet I started building up this front, this toughness, this armor to protect myself. So I was the tough girl. But what I really needed was some compassion and some love. But I hardened up. And that really made me keep everybody from an arm's length. If they can't ask questions, if they can't get close, and if I seem okay, they won't poke and prod. And so what ended up happening was around 16 years old, because my brother and I were super close, my body was changing. I didn't really get back into sports, and not really understand the relationship with my father. My brother took me to the gym for the very first time, and my mom's always been super athletic. My brother was always into the gym. So I kind of just followed suit. And when I walked into this grungy, old, gross, dirty basement gym.
Those are the best, by the way. Those are the best.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There's something about it, and I don't know what it is, but I was like, it almost felt like a safe haven to me. I'm like, I can do this. This is really cool. Like, just, the energy in the gym. I didn't know anything about really working out. I knew my mom worked out. I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about anything. And I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was like, I just wanted to try. And so from there, I kind of just did my own research, was reading the magazines, and just took a real interest of something new that piqued my curiosity. that really started the evolution of where I am now. And that curiosity turned into habits and routine of going to the gym, continuing on with my education, really being curious as to, wow, I can shape and mold my body the way that I want. Well, I like that. That makes me feel powerful. And so it turned in from a curiosity to a habit to a routine to a passion. So it really had its own evolution in itself. And I was only going to the gym I felt strong. I felt empowered, and it was my safe haven. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I started, taking it more and more seriously, educating myself on nutrition and so on and so forth. But funny enough, I came to my parents' house, I think 2 years ago, and I was looking through some of my old stuff. Your parents like keep all your stuff. I'm like, Mom, I don't know why you need all of this, but okay. There was a book, and in this book, there was clippings from magazines, and I had all my workouts, reps, sets, tempo, like nutrition, what I was eating, a reflection log, and just like basically super detailed. And I was like, oh my gosh, it wasn't until this year I looked at that book outside of it just being a book. I was like, I was manifesting my life right then and there, and I had no idea. And so, I looked at it as like, oh, this was just like a training journal and stuff like that. I was like, no, I already knew about mindset and journaling and thoughts and, trying to better myself. I just didn't really know what the end result was. To me, I was just trying to learn, right? Yeah.
I love that. So real quick, before we go into the reflection log that you talked about, can you tell people what that is? Because I think a lot of people, they may not understand it, and I would just want them to kind of get an idea of what a reflection log is.
For me at that age, I was focusing on things that I did really, really well and things that I wanted to improve on, which I don't know where that came from, but I was like, smart girl.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. And just focusing on things that I like, the workout, what I could make better, or nutrition wise and things like that. And then as I got older and I got into the fitness and I realized I could change my body, I was like, I wanted to try competing. And but before that, I had went away to college, and we know what ends up happening. Different environment, right? Different experience, lots of stress, lots of food, lots of booze. I was still working out, but all the other stuff was overconsumption. So I started to pack on a lot of weight.
Talking about product of your environment, college.
Model.
You're either a part of this group or a part of this group, and product of your environment for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it was probably in that age, like around that time, the self-bullying started. But I didn't really, that probably is where it started, but it got a lot worse. So when I graduated, I was like, okay, things need to change because I'm uncomfortable in my own skin, and this is not good for me. I know it's not good. So I moved to Toronto for my career. And I got more into fitness and more into health. And when I really realized, like, well, I'm in the behavioral world and I can shape and mold my mind like I can shape and mold my body, I was like, oh my God, this is super powerful. Like that's my superpower. And I was like, well, they definitely go hand in hand. Whatever you nourish your mind will be expressed through the body 100%. So this is why I focus so much on, in our programming, mind nutrition. What are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your mind? It's not just the body, but what are you feeding your mind?
It's huge. That's huge. I'm going to go back real quick. I mean, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
So you were talking about you were trying to almost impress, right? And the real word I want to use is get acceptance from your mother by being a secretary, or your aunts, or whoever it might be. You're trying to get that acceptance. When did you figure out it was because your father left? When did you figure that out? Now this is happening, when you're a very young girl. How many years later did you figure out, man, I was just trying to get acceptance because I felt that was my biggest need at that moment?
Probably a year and a half ago.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I've had some massive aha moments recently because I've really gotten excited about self-discovery.
That's where I want to go with this. So
Yeah.
many years have passed from that little girl who's just trying to get accepted because she had that need. And a lot of experiences happened along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And not too long ago, you just realized that probably the biggest limited belief you had that affected probably many other things, not just when you're a little girl, but things in college, relationships you've had, so many other things. And now connecting the dots, looking back, and makes sense. How did you figure out through the self-discovery process that the acceptance is what you were looking for and that you crave so badly?
I think it was like peeling back an onion when I really wanted to understand why I did certain things. And I think it really started with the ugliness that came from the self-bullying. And, you know, Troy's even overheard it, heard the self-bullying. And it breaks his heart when he, you know, he's heard it the first time. He didn't know what to do. And it is the things that you say that nobody would ever want to hear another person say to themselves. It would break someone's heart, just ugly hate. And I didn't really realize until I started peeling back the layers that what I needed was something completely opposite. So for the pain and the suffering and the judgment, all I needed was love and understanding and some self-compassion.
That was your real need.
And that I needed to find my inner caretaker. And when I couldn't be that in my present self, I needed to step outside of myself and say, what do you need? Because I've got your back. Because I wouldn't lean on anybody. I wouldn't ask for help. I was like this tough girl and this exterior, and I hardened up. And being in the city too also really nourished that too, because it's like survival of the fittest, get out of my way because you're just an object. Like, it's a busy city. And, you know, I was new to it. I had never been to the city before. I got hired on a Friday and had to be there on a Monday. And I really had to toughen up. And also with the training and the fitness, that really hardened my exterior too. I really realized over the years, I was getting so tired of all this armor that I was wearing. And I wanted human connection. And I was exhausted from pretending like everything was okay. And I really believe like we're put on this earth to like connect with people. And we're not supposed to have it all figured out on our own. And we're supposed to lean on each other. And I wasn't giving myself that. I was isolating, shutting down, shrinking up, and hating on myself. And the easiest thing that was available to me was my body. And I'm like, well, instead of being vulnerable, addressing my fears and the pain, because I felt like if I started opening up, I was afraid what was underneath and I wouldn't be able to handle it. Mm-hmm. And when I really realized that it was actually a lot easier to open up and shed the weight, that's when it just started to just evolve. And so when these like little things about like the bullying at school, I totally forgot about that. I wouldn't have been able to have those aha moments of it was my father, or not even that. I probably always knew it. I just didn't want to feel powerless, and I didn't want to give him that power.
So you felt like by admitting that you lost the power versus by admitting that you actually got the power back. Mm-hmm. That's pretty intense. I think a lot of people do that. You know, I think a lot of people, they're scared to admit things because they feel like then they're not in control. But would you say someone who's been through this experience, I mean, tell them, do you feel like that admitting something like that actually puts you as the one in control?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's about admitting. I think it's about looking at yourself and saying, what do I need? What is it? What am I yearning for? What is this pain coming from? Because I really do believe that there is an opposing emotion for what the pain and the fear and the suffering is to remedy it. I really do. And it's usually love.
And how did you find out? So is it just you sort of asking yourself better questions on how you change that mindset? I mean, I just really want to give somebody something actionable. Whoever's sitting there right now and feeling exactly how you felt a few years back, and you took that first step into peeling that first layer of the onion back. What was that first step that they could do right now?
I surrendered. I did. I just said, I'm tired. I'm tired. And you know, when it came to this, like if you don't mind, if I go back just a few years ago, well, it wasn't a few, it was probably about 5 years ago. After I competed, I had an amazing, I loved the competing, and what I'm about to explain wasn't in reflection of competing, because I know there's a lot of stories out there that there's some correlation there, but for me, this isn't. It was just, it just seemed to happen in this time frame. So I finished competing, and I was on the top of the world, and a bunch of things happened after competing that really pushed me back into binge eating. And it got to the point where I would take a few days off of work, and I always had great attendance. I was at work. I was never, didn't call in sick or anything like that. I loved what I did. And first it was 1 day, then it was 2 days, and then I was taking weeks off. And I would just call last minute and say, I need to take mental health day. But what was happening, and nobody knew, is I was eating so much to the point that I couldn't move. And I would eat so much that the next day I was still full. I was uncomfortable. And the guilt, the shame, and it was just a perpetuating cycle. Guilt, shame, blame, hate, judgment, ridicule. And I pushed everybody away. I almost destroyed some of my closest and dearest relationships with some of my best friends. Thank God they're still beside me. But they had no idea. They had no idea what was going on with me. They just knew I was a really angry person. And so this had gone on for a while. And I, again, looked at myself and I said, I do not want to live like this. And so I literally got on the computer. I found myself a therapist. And I went and I saw that therapist for 8 months. And I didn't just see that therapist. I went and I immersed myself in group therapy. I immersed myself in whatever I possibly could to get me out of this position. And I did that for 8 months straight. And then I was like, okay, I think I've got this now on my own. And I continued my journey. I was like, this isn't done. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to an eating disorder, disordered eating, emotional eating, however you want to shape this coping style, you cannot live without food. You can live without smoking, drinking, drugs. And I'm not saying one is worse than the other or one's easier than the other. I'm just stating a fact. You cannot live without food like you cannot live without air. It's in your face every day, and it's a necessity. So I knew this was going to be an ongoing kind of transition for me. And so because I fully immersed myself in it, this is how I've been able to move forward in my life. So, yeah.
And I never thought of that. I'll be honest with you. Me coming from an addiction of drugs and anger and negativity, I never thought about, the addiction to food, on how it's not like you could just cut it off. Mm-hmm. Right? That the process has to be so much stronger because it still has to be in your face, which means mentally it's a lot harder to really beat. And I never thought about that. And thank you for opening my eyes with that, because I think a lot of us who go through addiction problems, we think our addiction is, worse than yours and worse than yours. And, I appreciate you opening up and being vulnerable about that, because I think it gave a lot of people some good insight on, if you see somebody struggling with addiction to food, it's not as surface as we think.
No. And you're also looking too, when it comes to coping mechanisms, whatever addiction it is, the person's doing the best that they can at that time. They just don't have the tools, the tools yet. And a lot of it too is tied to identity. So it's not just overcoming the addiction. You have to shed an identity, and what comes with that. There's a loss that comes with that. And so it's a process. And I really truly believe that the reason why I was successful is because I had a multimodal approach. I didn't rely on just one thing. I was like, no, I want my brain to be like saturated with like personal development, growth, challenging myself, daily actions, whatever that was, because I knew how strong that was. And I was like, shoot, if my mind is this strong for this, then I can flip that. It just takes time. It just takes time. So that's kind of like where it started. Really the whole self-discovery. And I think it came with a lot of emotional and mental maturity, and falling on my face a lot. And that's why I say, like, I'll tell our clients all the time, I want you to give yourself permission to fail. And they're like, what? And I'm like, fail forward, fail fast, pick yourself up, build that self-confidence, build that resilience, and you'll see what ends up happening. And embrace your messy, whatever that is, embrace your messy journey, because that's the joy in life. If everything was just so in orderly fashion, you would be bored out of your mind.
I love what you just said. I always say fall in love with the process. Embrace your messy journey.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, guys, it's messy. I don't care what your goal is. It's going to be a messy journey, and you got to fall in love with it. That's brilliant. I love that. I love that. Let me ask you. So if now you're going to, let's say you just went back to, see you 21, 25, whatever age that you're thinking in your head, what would you say to that girl? What would you say to Jasmine at, 21, 25 years old, maybe different from both those ages, but what would you say to that person today?
I would always say, tell yourself you're enough. And that's super important. And I love you and things like that. I would probably say, be gentle with yourself, Jasmine. You don't have to be everything for everybody. You don't have to be everything for everybody. The reason why I ask that question, I ask it often because I want people to ask themselves that now. Don't wait until, 10, 20 years to say, I wish I told myself this. The reason why I'm asking successful people what they would tell themselves when they were 20, 25 is because I don't want people to wait. Whatever it hits home, just say it now. Say it now. There's so much time that you have, but if you can collapse it by just asking yourself or saying something to yourself right now, do it. Do it. I totally agree with you. I say this with my mindset coaching clients, and especially the women, and that question, even things like, what do you like? What do you want? It's literally petrifying to them. It paralyzes them. And they've described to me saying, I feel like someone's got their hand around my neck and I can't talk. And their identity is tied down to so many other things, their limitations. They decided at some point in their life, like, I am this person. I can't do this. I can't do that. Who am I to think this? And all of that that question is really stressful for them. And when I say, if you were that little girl, little boy at 10 years old, 50, whatever that might be for you, what would you say to that person? What would you say to that child? And oftentimes they don't have the words. And I tell them all the time, I say, you know what? That's still an answer, and that's okay. That's just where you are in your journey. And it's okay. It's okay. And you talked about limited beliefs, and you've obviously been in the mindset world for many, many years, and I'm sure you've seen many methods on how to overcome limited beliefs. You've talked a little bit about how you overcame yours, but give another example of how somebody can take that limited belief that's holding them back from living and designing the life they always wanted to live. How would they overcome that limited belief? Because we all have them, whether you're successful or not. It's just what you do with them, right? Whether you live with them or not. What would you suggest? What would you tell one of your clients or the people listening, do this to overcome that limited belief? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but I find a lot of times people don't even know their values. They don't even know their driving force. They don't even know what they're living for in terms. They just go into auto mode, and they're just like in the day-to-day 9 to 5, and they get lost. And I'm like, when have you dreamt? When have you gotten curious? When have you tried something new? Because if you're not, then how do you even know? And so if you don't know your values and you don't have your why, then it's easy to kind of, get sidetracked. And sometimes, like for me, it's not a one size fits all, because sometimes you got to get real aggressive real fast. And sometimes you have to pick the time and the place. Explain that a little bit more, please, because I agree with you. I just want you to kind of shine some light on that. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the mindset, for some people, they thrive off of immediate action. That's really what they need. They just need somebody to push them hard, push them fast. Like, it's almost like exposure therapy. Like if you're afraid of snakes, just start exposing yourself to them. It's that's exactly what it is. That's how you limit fear, right? Fear doesn't want you to talk about it. It wants it to be a dirty little secret, and you and it just be best friends. But as soon as you start exposing it and talking about it like it's your worst enemy, you start disempowering that and empowering yourself. So depending on where the person is in their journey, their skill sets, their commitment levels, and things like that, the pendulum can swing from one side to the other. So sometimes it's about adopting more skills, and so that the person feels more confident, not just with like communicating with maybe a coach, but with themselves. Because a lot of the time it's about self-trust before they can go there. So sometimes that's where you need to start them and just start nourishing seeds. And then you've got some other people that thrive off of, push me harder, push me fast. I'm ready. So they need to, wherever they are in their, level of change, or where they are in that kind of progression, it kind of goes based off of that for me, for my experience. Yeah.
And I like what you said about you said self-trust, which I love. And then you said confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to master whatever craft you're trying to master, or whatever it might be, being able to have the confidence, I agree, can absolutely push away that limited belief every time it pops its head up, because we know that there's always these limited beliefs. Usually they're the same ones that keep popping up. So confidence is a huge one. Yes.
Yeah. And I find too, like for that confidence, like for some people, they can take bigger risks, but if you're a person that just can't seem to get started, when I describe to some of my clients, I'm like, here's the thing is we can take micro risks every day. So your level of comfort is this tiny little circle. And as you take little micro risks, maybe every day or every couple of days, and get into that action mode because you feel stuck, well, that challenges that first and foremost. And as you make these micro risks, you can start making bigger ones. And then your level of comfort grows. And then your circle's like this big. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a compound effect necessarily. I mean, it's just making sure every day you're trying to overcome it. But like you said, there's different people are different place mindset wise, life wise, what they need to be doing in order to overcome that limited belief. You talked about your why, and you brought that up for a second. I want to know, what is your why, and how does somebody find it? Yeah, a lot of clients, they're like, man, I can't find it, John. I can't find it. And I'm talking about men, women, young, old, people that have kids, people that don't have kids. They're struggling finding their why. And we know, a man with a strong enough why can bear any how. And I'm a deep believer in that, but people struggle in finding it. So how would you find your why? But first, I need to hear, what is your why? What wakes you up at 4:30 in the morning to do what you do and fall on your face over and over again to get back up to reach that success?
Two things. I'm addicted to two things. My own personal growth, because I see the power in it, and daily impact. Daily impact on having a positive influence on someone's life. And it doesn't have to be something big or grand. And oftentimes it's not. It's just those little tiny things. And that, to me, as long as I know I'm giving back to society, I'm having a greater impact on this world as a whole, then that's my fulfillment. That's my joy. That's my bliss. And I think when you're asking people, what is your why? They're looking for something grandiose. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be. It could be the simplest things, because usually that's where the pleasure is. And I often tell clients, I say, just pay attention to your day to day. Notice when you get lit up, what gets you fired up. And it might be the smallest tiny thing. And I said, you probably know what it is, but without self-awareness, how do you even know? So oftentimes they have to go through a self-discovery phase and getting curious about who they are, what they like, and just like the simplistic things before they can tap into that. And sometimes it starts off, their why power starts off to be something very external. And then as they build confidence, as they get in touch with themselves, then you can go a bit deeper. But I really find that when people don't know their values, it can be really hard to find their why.
And you had said, guys, listen to this, because she said, pay attention to your day and notice when something lights you up. Write it down. write it down, and then look at by the end of the month, you're going to see probably the same thing, right? It is lighting you up every time. So now you have a little inclination of maybe there's something there that really is really my why. And whys can be stationary, right? Or they could change from time to time. Would you agree?
100%. Mine does all the time. And I struggled with this for a really long time. But as you get to know you, as you get to know your passions, as you get to know your values, and those can change a lot too. As you have more experiences, as you take bigger risks, you're never just this one person. And I feel like people think that they are, and they have this identity of this is who I am. I'm only this, I'm only that. And it's like, no, man, you can like stretch that, shape that, mold that, be whatever that is. And when you kind of remove all those like confining barriers, then you've got room to move, right? When you train, you don't train in one plane of motion, right? You're moving your body in all these different ways. And I think we need to allow for that. There's no picture perfect. I always tell people, like, when it comes to like health and fitness, I say to them, a lifestyle, because that is what you crave, happens outside of a perfect plan. Right?
I like that. Repeat that, please. Guys, write this down one more time, please, because I need to write it down.
A lifestyle happens outside of a perfect plan.
Yes.
Yes. And that lifestyle can be your body. That could be your mind. It could be whatever that looks like for you. And I feel like when we have this idea that everything's going to be perfect, we really limit ourselves from having a really juicy and exciting life. I really do. It's kind of like, well, it's Monday again. I'm going to work at 9. Here we go.
Yes. I always talk about it. We are not human beings. We are human becomings. Right?
I'm gonna write that one down.
Always evolving. Always evolving. Yeah. I like to think that the most important 4 hours of our day are the 2 when we first wake up, and then the 2 before we go to sleep.
Bookendings.
What does yours look like?
Well, you've talked to Troy, so him and I really cultivated our book endings, and I'm sure he's probably talked about that. Because we really, how you start your day is how you end your day, and when you go to sleep, you're impressing the mind, you're planting seeds and being intentional. So for us, first thing in the morning, he keeps saying on the 5, so I'm assuming he got that from me. Or is that what it is?
On the F's.
On the apps.
On the F's.
That's what it is. Yes. He's like, he said this really great thing, and I think I'm going to take that. I'm like, well, you better, tell him you're using his stuff. So,
like royalties from it.
Love it. So we get up about 5 o'clock. Recently, it's been 4:30. I find that time fluctuates when you have inspired ideas. And we usually get up a lot earlier because those ideas kind of come to light, and then you wake up and you're like, I need to write this, create it, whatever it is. Get up. Meditation, and that time varies. Sometimes it's 15, sometimes it's 25 minutes, whatever we're feeling. There's no pressure around it, because I feel like when we talk about mindset, anytime like I feel like this, the health and fitness industry sinks their teeth into something, then it becomes really rigid and really controlled. And I'm like, no, meditation is an experience. And I really tell people, like, it's not just in that moment. Meditation creates awareness so that when you go through your day, you have more self-awareness of your thoughts and emotions so that you can be more responsive rather than reactive. So it's not just in that moment, it really transcends throughout your day. And this helps with your self-awareness.
Yes. I love it. Responsive versus reactive. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And so we do our meditation, we read, and then we get up. And I find for me, the first thing in the morning within that 2-hour window that you're talking about, that's my creative flow. That is my joy. That is when I get to just, whatever it is, fully immerse myself in it. And when I'm done that 2 hours for myself, I get up and I do daily movement. So that might be, going downstairs or outside and getting a brisk walk in or heading to the gym. But I make sure to feed myself first so that I can nourish everybody else. And then the last 2 hours of the day is basically on a repeat. So writing out our day for the next day, things that perhaps didn't get accomplished, get to the next day. Setting intentions, our gratitudes, what we're grateful for, and really reflecting on all the good things that happened within that day, because I find that we're always searching for, there's something more. I got to do more. I got to be more. I got to, more and more and more, always demanding from ourselves. And I'm like, well, we haven't even appreciated all the things that we've done today, yesterday, and the day before to get us to where we are right now. And there is always something more, but I think that you and I have talked about this, that's the messy in the journey. That's the curiosity. That's that intuition that there's something more out there for yourself and that you want to experience. But it oftentimes comes in demand of, I'm not this enough. I'm not doing this enough. I don't have enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough. I don't have a fancy car, a fancy home, and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, no. It's the other way around. You gotta, there's more. You just gotta switch that perspective.
Yes, you could be happy and not satisfied, right?
Oh my gosh, you can have it all and be empty as a tank of gas.
Yep, absolutely. So talk about tracking goals. Yeah. You have a lot of clients, and there's so many different ways to set goals. And I'm not going to talk about the big overall view. I want to talk about like your weekly, daily, like what's your best practice to set and stay on top of those goals?
I don't to-do list myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I find what ends up happening with people, whether, let's talk about procrastination. They have too many resources, too many downloads, too many books, too many how-to books, too many emails, too many. You just collect and you collect and you collect. And you're like, I'm a professional collector.
We actually call those hoarders.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, okay. And you try to get into action mode and you're like, where do I start? And sometimes it's like, when you have too much overload, you got analysis paralysis, you just stay exactly where you are. So for me, what I find is I focus on the 3 biggest things that are going to have an impact. And I usually categorize my stuff too. So one is like working in my business, working on my business, and then also giving back to people. And so those are my top 3 priorities. So if I'm trying to grow something in my business, I don't focus on the $1 ideas, I focus on the $100 ideas. If it's in my business, it's like, what are some things that I can give to my clients today? Or what kind of impact can I have on people that I'm trying to attract into my life? And also for myself, am I training? Am I eating well? Am I rested? Those are kind of like on my kind of 4 pillars, I guess you can kind of say. But every day I wake up, I have this little sticky note, and it says, what can I teach and share today? Who can I help and serve today? And then I always say, connect with 3 new people every single day.
I love that. And that just stays up on your computer the whole time or on your desk?
It says daily goals. So these are like my non-negotiables.
Do you write it down every day too? Or is it just one that you've had there?
No, I don't write it out. I don't write it every day. I read it every day. And I make sure that these are done every single day. Because I know the impact that it can have. And I often find too, that this has really helped me when I go through my tough moments and I want to have my little 2-year-old temper tantrums, because I have those.
We all do.
Oh yeah. Or you have a hard day and you want to be stuck in your crap. You get really addicted to it and you're like, no, today I'm choosing not to get out of this.
Yeah.
One practice that Troy and I say to ourselves, and we share this with our clients, is take your eyes off yourself and put them on someone else. That immediately changes our state, because the second we give, that changes our psychology.
So you're saying whenever you're stuck in your own, crap basically, and you choose to be okay with feeling like the victim, because we get there. You say a little mantra, which is take your eyes off of yourself and put them on someone else.
Yep.
I like that. Awesome.
Yeah. And, there's a time and a place too. Sometimes you need to just shut down and, have some me time. But there's other times too, like if you feel like you're really, really stuck, you might not need that self-compassion. You might just need a little, tough love. And it's like, okay, take your eyes off yourself, stop being selfish, and go give to somebody else. It's like that pay it forward. It always makes you feel better. It's like that whole, when people say you never regret a workout kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
So I've never not had this action not work. So I use it all the time, and it's amazing. It's like the easiest thing to do. You might fight yourself a little bit, but you know, it works, and it's fantastic to know that you've had a positive impact on somebody. So it's kind of taking the negative and feeding it with a positive.
I'm stealing it, just to let you know.
TM.
Yep. I am gonna take it and use it until I get called not to pay you royalties off of that. So,
well, you know what? It'll go both ways. There we go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We'll just go ahead and swap that.
There you go.
When you get to the white pearly gates, I love asking this question, and you see the man himself, whatever that man looks like, and if it's a man or it's a woman, what do you want God to say to you?
Gosh.
Think about it.
Are we allowed to pause for a minute?
Yes, we could pause. Yes.
Ooh.
You guys could all take a sip of your water. Make sure you get your hand ready, because as she's thinking, we're going to go into another fun little question asking mode and drop some more value on you guys.
It's probably really simple, because I don't know if we ever hear it enough. Is that you were loved. You were loved. I know that sounds so simple and so maybe cheesy, but I think for me, and we're talking about that little girl and never not feeling that enough or knowing how to ask for it, and in the place that I am right now, and that is something that I think I would need to hear and would want to hear, because I yearned for that for so long.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
You are loved.
Oh,
you are loved.
Thank you.
By many, many across the world, and a guy that's probably sitting in the next room, Troy. So you are loved and appreciated. So thank you for being vulnerable with that. It's always one of my favorite questions to ask.
It's a great question, by the way.
Now we're going to get into some fun stuff. Okay. I'm going to say a word.
Oh, gosh.
And I want you to top of your mind, tell me what you think when you hear that word, because we associate words with so many different things, depending on where we're at in our life, so on and so forth. I'm going to say these words, and you're going to say, top of your mind, what comes to your mind. And this is a rated R show, so whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Failure.
Success.
Fear.
Challenge.
Hustle.
Overrated.
Success.
Fulfillment.
Yes. Thank you so much. Those are amazing. You passed.
Awesome.
Yes. All right. So we are going to do the final question of the show, because this whole podcast, Jazz, is for people to really be better today than they were yesterday. And not for just the fluff, not for just the inspiration. There's that across, many of the questions we ask. The stories we go into. But I want some tangible things that somebody can implement immediately and take massive, aggressive, annoying action right now and be better today than they were yesterday. So what are 3 things that my listeners can do today, as soon as they get done with this podcast, and implement right now to be better today than they were yesterday? 3 actionable things. Get your pen and paper ready, guys. Let's go.
Do the one thing that you've been putting off first. Stop thinking and start doing. Don't overcomplicate the process.
All right, so we got one thing you've been putting off. Do that first. Stop thinking. I'm sorry, I'm writing these down. So
that's okay. Yeah.
And start doing.
Yep.
And then what was the last one?
Don't overcomplicate the process.
Don't overcomplicate the process. I love that. Those are bombs of value from Jasmine Perks. 3 things you could take action on right now to make sure you are better today than you were yesterday. And I want you to send her a message and tell her which one you are doing first, which obviously it's do the one thing that you've been putting off.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. So tell everybody a little bit about what's going on with you in your life right now, where they could find you, any events you have coming up, or any kind of products you're launching. The floor is yours, Jasmine. go for it.
Amazing. Well, first and foremost, our website is apexphysiques.ca. So you can go ahead and read more about myself and my partner, Troy, on there. You can learn about our services. You can see the transformations. You can find me on Instagram at JazzPerks. I really share a lot about the mindset. You'll see some training stuff and some nutrition stuff, but I always bring it back to the mind because I understand, I know, and I appreciate the power of your mind. And I really want you to not just read about it, but I want you to know it and believe it and feel it. What else? We have also the Apex Life on Instagram as well. You can check us out there. Troy and I both have Inner Circles, so it's free. It's on Facebook. Me, myself, I have the Her Inner Circle. There's about 225 women on there, all just looking to feel more authentic and aligned with who they are in their health and fitness journey, but more so in their mindset. It's a community of women who are looking to be around like-minded women, to feel supported, to have accountability, to share wins, victories, struggles, and just be real, raw, and connected. When you sign up, I've got some free gifts for you as well. And then also coming at the end of September, I am going to be running a 12-week transformation program. Now, this program is going to be completely different than other programs out there. So this program is going to be able to grow with you, but I'm also adding in a component that I'm not going to tell you about. It's the nugget that I feel most people need and get stuck trying diet after diet. And I'm really going to be adding to your experience in a VIP way by putting on bi-weekly webinars where we're going to be talking about self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs, identifying your why, all of that kind of stuff that really, really matters. This 12-week program is probably one of the biggest reasons why I decided to leave my career, because I felt that there was a need in the health and fitness industry and I wanted to fill that void. And that's really merging behavioral change, mindset change, and connecting it with health and fitness. And I really wanted to help people get out of that hamster wheel is the easiest and simplistic way. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be a full experience where you are going to feel fulfilled in all pillars: health, nutrition, training, mindset. And I'm really going to show you how to transition from a fat loss phase into a lifestyle that you are going to love, and a newfound body and a new sense of self-confidence.
I love that. Now, is this just for men? Or is it just for women? Is it for both?
So I have this one for just the women,
okay.
And Troy is going to be doing the same for men. Now, the programs are going to be a little bit different just because we'll be coached a little bit different, but the end goal is the same. It's really helping you identify what's keeping you stuck, and really showing you how to, you don't always have to be on a diet. And I think people are so tied down to that identity. Like, well, what am I outside of a diet? And what ends up happening, I find, is when people go through a fat loss and they start getting the body that they want, they end up self-sabotaging. So I'm really going to help women identify what that is, where it is. I'm going to help them with the balance in their life. I'm going to help with stress. I'm going to have sleep, all of it. It's going to be a full package, a full experience, and it's going to be something that I don't think anybody else is doing. So I'm really excited for this.
That is amazing. I cannot wait to hear the results and see the results. And guys, you need to go follow her. You know, I just saw a post on Instagram recently, the before and after of Jasmine Perks. And I love the vulnerability of it. I did one myself not too long ago. And it's, people think it's hard. I can't believe you put that picture up. Like, it feels good to put the picture up, right, of the past and now. So I appreciate the vulnerability, not just on today's show, but through social media, through our conversations on the side. Guys, you need to go follow Jasmine. And if you're interested in going ahead and being a part of that program, don't wait. Stop waiting for the law of diminishing intent to creep its way in, because the longer you wait to do something, the less likely you are to do it. So reach out to her with any questions. I'm sure she'll be able to field any questions that you have, so that you make sure it's a good fit for you. She makes sure it's a good fit for her, and you guys join the journey together. Jasmine, I appreciate you so much. Do you have anything else that you want to leave the audience?
Just that little nugget: embrace your messy journey.
Embrace the messy journey. I love it. Guys, like I said, go follow her. And I'll be seeing her in Destin for the Ultimate You Retreat in April. So make sure you mark your calendars for that, you and Troy. But guys, make sure you go follow her. Make sure you follow Troy. Make sure you go look at the Apex Life. And really, really just take the things she said serious. Take massive, aggressive, annoying action. And be better today than you were yesterday. The things she said came from the heart because it's real. The transformation she made, she went through all these things. So she's not just talking through her education, which she has a very high level of it, but she's talking through not just education, but experience as well. And that's what I love so much about you, Jasmine, that you bring all those things together and you talk about how you got to be healthy inside to be healthy outside. I appreciate you so much. And guys, make sure you follow me as well if you haven't already. It's at Real John Marone across all social media platforms. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to this on, or if you're looking on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe. Also, make sure, I'm going to put this out there, you hit the 5 stars, please, because she just dropped bombs on you. And not only that, make sure you write a review. If Jasmine had put any kind of nugget into your life that's going to help you and help your future, write the review and make it about Jasmine. It's not about me. This is about my guest helping you. So write the review and make sure you send this out to somebody else. You said it before, Jasmine. You said take your eyes off of yourself and put it on somebody else. Send this podcast to somebody that you know can use it and it can help them. And maybe if you don't know and you just want to help somebody today or shed some light on the things we discussed, send this out. I'd be appreciative. I know that Jasmine would, and so would the person that you send it to. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. But until then, keep creating the ultimate version of you. Have a good one, guys.